IT Nation, Sean Lardo here from IT Nation with my good friend Matt Topper. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Going great. We're here today again for another installment / episode of the Wise Up podcast, brought to you by IT Nation, where we talk to people. You like that, right?
We
Where
sponsored our own podcast.
we're sponsoring our own podcast. This is where we talk to people within the industry and outside the industry to get really good ideas, concepts, and just see how people do what they do. And everything should be educational for both vendors and partners and just the average schmo.
I would agree, right? That's the whole point. We want things that haven't been said before, things that you won't get just by reading somebody's website or the marketing material, the real story behind some of the things that you've seen, the story behind the story, if you
Yes.
will.
Speaking of story behind story, the most amazing thing is I just moved into the house, as you know, and it's the first time I'm recording a podcast. So I found all kind of cool stuff. So I was like, oh, what are these? I'm like,
Look at that.
they were
That's
just sitting on the
styling.
table. I got a chance to clean them up. So I got like stuff in the background that doesn't need to be in the background, but here we are, making it
It
work.
looks
So
good.
those are pretty dope. So
I
anyway,
can see myself in the reflection.
God, I know those are
Nice.
good. Wow. Wow. I'll check those out in the sun. Anyway, all right. So um because these are recorded, we do throw out random things that are taking place, and who knows, they may still be taking place when this recording comes out. So we're preparing for IT Nation Europe, and we're also, but more importantly for you, is IT Nation Secure.
Not more importantly, equally important.
Fine,
So
go
IT
ahead.
Nation Secure registration is open. Hopefully, it's still open by the time this comes out. Coming up the beginning of June, June 2nd. And one of the things we're trying to get the word out and spread the message is IT Nation Secure is going to be a little bit different this year. There's some more community educational content. There's more interactive content, really trying to make it more of an industry event than just about us and our products. So, really excited to talk more about that in the next couple weeks and months, and hoping to see everyone there and come submit a talk if the call for speakers is still open as well.
Right. Well, something to just think about here, and question everybody's going to ask is, you said it's different. What makes it different this time? Because we've all been to enough conferences. We've all seen what we had to see with it. It's and a lot of things become similar, right? So what is the mission and the goal for this time for IT Nation Secure?
Well, really, the goal for IT Nation Secure is to kind of take the pulse of the state of security around the industry and help attendees um, really discern what that is and what they should be doing to defend themselves and our clients. You really could almost call it IT Nation Defend. Not that I would suggest renaming the event, but really it's about that, right? And yes, there is a product component to that, but really it's about what should you be doing from products, but also from security architecture, best practices, policies, compliance, all of the things that you need to be able to defend yourself and your clients against threats that are out there, and keeping you up to date on threats that are out there and just how to be better at the defense side of security from coming to this. So you will get product exposure, but more importantly, you'll get the state of the industry, the state of the threat landscape, and what you should be doing about that beyond just buying stuff.
Right. Fair. And you did mention community, which is a perfect segue into today's guest. Considering he is the chief community officer, right, of the company formerly known as CompTIA. It's like Prince, right? The artist formerly known as Prince. Right?
We have to introduce it that way from now on.
Yeah, right. The company formerly known as CompTIA, now GTIA. He's actually well respected, and he's loved.
You
And he's
sound
actually,
surprised, like it's surprising he would be well
well, I'm trying
respected.
not to. I'm trying not to compliment him too much because then he'll expect it every time I see him, and I can't do that. It's already, you know, or it makes me feel warm and fuzzy right now, But if I was ever gonna have like a man crush on somebody, though, it probably would be this guy. Let's be honest. Um, Great on
Yeah,
stage, great
I can
people
see that.
person. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm saying, But yeah, let's just get him on then, and let's start talking about this. So, as I said, the chief community officer of the company formerly known as CompTIA, now GTIA, my good friend MJ Shore. Let's bring him on.
I'm trying not to just bust a gut when you bring me on like that.
You like that? That was good.
Oh my God. I've been hyper focused on whether to think of you in those glasses as John Travolta or Dame Edna. And then you start
John
complimenting
Travolta.
me.
Hey,
Oh my God. I'm not going to get this image out of my head ever.
as I wear my Dolly Parton t-shirt.
Oh my God. You're nuts.
You were ready to go.
Well, I recently moved, MJ, and I found all this stuff.
Oh God. I can't even imagine. I can't.
And it's like
That's like my nightmare thinking about moving. We've been in our house for, I think, close to 30 years. God knows what.
Just start over.
it's funny because wait, what's even better is my youngest daughter turned 16 yesterday, right? So we moved just
Oh,
last weekend,
congrats.
right? Thank you. And as we're packing our like my friends are over helping me pack stuff up, and they're like, "Oh, is this Sophia's stuff?" I was like, "No, that's my stuff." Like,
That's awesome. I love it. I
So,
love it.
how are you today, sir?
I am very well, thank you. I am very well. How are you both?
Well, I'm great. I'm with Matt.
There you go.
He completes me.
What more could you ask
I
for?
do? That's news to me.
Just go with it, Matt.
You two are nutty.
So yeah, so let's talk a little bit about you. So
Okay.
where are you currently in the United States or in the world? I guess because you're everywhere all the time. So where are you
Where am
right
I
now?
currently? I am currently in Hilton Head, South Carolina. My wife and
Mhm.
I rent a place down here for a few months to get out of the worst of the New England winter. So I'm working from here, but I'm
Mm.
normally based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is about 50 miles north of Boston.
Wow. Yeah, that's smart. That's actually I never thought about this. I thought in order to be a snowbird, you had to buy another property, but it makes
No,
sense
but
just
you know
rent.
what? I learned something last year. Jen Ogle, I think you know Jen. She works on our team.
Oh yeah.
She told me that when you come to the Carolinas, you are half backing. So as opposed to
Mm.
snowbirding, where you go down to Florida for the winter, when you come here, you half back because you're kind of going halfway down and then going back.
I like
I don't
that.
know.
So
I think it's all snowbirding.
I don't know.
I
I'm
think it's
going
all
with
the
halfback
same.
because snowbird envisions, blue hair, fur coats, and yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you have to
that's
be
not
Yeah.
me.
like playing shuffleboard if you're
Right.
snowboarding.
Yes, not there yet.
That
Nope.
but also, MJ, one thing you should know about Matt, he has his own terminology for geographical things. We've already had this
Uh-oh.
debate. We already argued about this, and you can
There
actually
was no argument.
you can give us your no, there's no argument there. You lose. So let's give me your thoughts on this. Everybody in New York, if they're not in New York City, everything is upstate New York, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now, Matt lives in
Or
Rochester.
Long Island.
Right.
It doesn't
I
even
thought
matter.
it was Long Island, Westchester County, or upstate.
No,
Westchester's
according to
debatable. I
no,
count it
MJ,
as
no.
not
See,
being.
Okay.
that would make sense, MJ, but no. To Matt and
Nope.
everybody else, everything else is upstate. Okay. Matt lives in Rochester. That's west,
Yep.
literally west. Why isn't it called left or right or up and down state New York? Why is everything up? How's it to me? Up is you're going up on the map towards the north, but not
Hey,
to
and in
Matt.
Rochester, you're in a little tech hotbed there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
there's a Rochester, New Hampshire too? I wouldn't recommend moving from Rochester, New York to Rochester, New
There's a
Hampshire though.
few. There's Rochester, Minnesota as well.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Too funny. Too funny.
So yeah. So
Well,
we
that's
might
right.
as
We
well
came
start.
down here a couple of weeks ago and it snowed for the first time in 8 years. And they don't have plows, nor do they know what road salt is in this part of the country. So the entire place shut down for 4 days. It's
That's
like
Oh
awesome.
man.
my joke has been, you guys are too young, but there used to be this jingle for the post office where they used to say, "Not rain nor snow nor sleet or hail, nothing stops the U.S. mail." Yeah, except a little bit of snow in Hilton. That stops the U.S. mail for days.
So did you go out and drive on it because you're used to that? Like just road to yourself, nobody around?
Yeah, it was fine. It was no big deal, but nothing was open, so it was pointless.
You know what though? So I lived in North Carolina when I was in Fort Bragg, and
Yeah,
the best time to drive home to Pittsburgh was when they said it might snow today because
because
literally
everybody
nobody
goes
left.
off the road.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and if it did start snowing while people were out, and it was never snow, it was a dusting, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
literally, they would all just start herringboning off the road. So I was like driving down the middle, like it was like a procession. They started open. It was like a car commercial where the Mercedes drives through and all the cars start moving out of the way. That was me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or everybody follows in your tracks because you haven't
Yeah.
gone off the
Oh
road.
yeah. They all peel off and they all get back on with me.
The funniest thing I ever saw was I was in Trenton, New Jersey one time when it snowed. They put their plows on their trash trucks. So like there's a trash truck
I've
plowing the
seen
road.
that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
That's
that's
actually
just
kind of
wrong.
smart, though.
I mean, it's a big, heavy truck. It makes sense.
Yeah, but God forbid it goes off the road. You got trash everywhere and snow.
That's
Come on, you
true.
need those
That's
big,
true.
big
Hopefully, it
dumps.
wasn't in use as a
But
trash truck at the time.
I feel like they should use it at the same time. That way we don't have to pay as much in taxes to get the trash picked up. Like, why
They
can't
can
you
just
do
start
both?
dropping trash on the road instead of
Instead of
salt.
paying
Use
full
that for
price for
traction.
2 services, why not pay a price and a half for one service to do 2 things?
All
Yeah.
right, maybe. I still think it's funny.
It is
So
funny.
one thing that was weird, like when I moved upstate, you have to pay for your own garbage collection. Like
So,
it's not a
I do.
municipal thing here.
Really? You know what? My daughter lived in a town where they have to pay per.
Really
They have to
strange.
buy their bags at the grocery store, and they can only put out one a week. I think. Fortunately, where I live, you can still put out as much trash as you want.
That's I have to pay, but it's as much as I want. There's no like, and they don't weigh it, thank God, or I'd be in trouble. But
Yeah.
What are you throwing bricks in your garbage?
I mean, did I tell you I moved? There's a lot of shit.
Those contractor bags you were talking about before, just
You have no
throw,
idea.
throw them right in the trash.
Wait.
This
MJ,
is not what I expected. I'm like, you said, let's talk about GTIA. We're talking about snow and trash.
I'll talk about
We'll
this
come
right
back.
now. I'll go back to the
come back
company
to
thing,
that.
right? Ready? I donated so many pairs of CompTIA socks this past weekend. So I personally provided CompTIA socks for the tri-state area of all Catholic churches to give to people. So
Okay, I'm a little hurt that you chose to donate those socks and not keep them, but I understand.
well, it was not just them.
Now
It was
they're
simply-
collector's items.
You have to,
Well,
you know how many pairs
exactly.
of
Don't laugh.
socks
We
I have?
actually, all kidding aside, because of the transition, which I know we'll talk about maybe in a half an hour, 45 minutes, whenever we get to it. But we had so much swag and socks and t-shirts and everything that we gave away. We gave them to homeless shelters and all around the world, wherever, in our regions, because we couldn't use them anymore. And they weren't CompTIA, surviving CompTIA doesn't need them because they were community socks.
Right.
And so we've put our No More brand on a whole lot of feet and bodies.
It's kind of like CompTIA lost the Super Bowl.
Oh God! Thanks. This is just going in a great direction. I can't wait for our PR people to see this. They'll be like, "Why did you agree to do that podcast, MJ?"
Just cut that line out for the highlight later.
Just donate all their stuff to somewhere else, and you see like third world countries are wearing this stuff, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that the Packers won the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
So yeah.
In some third world countries, the Bills had a dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. You hate the Bills. Anyway. All right. So, all right, MJ, we're going to come back to work now stuff. So you can talk about.
Really? It's not even another half hour. Okay, fine.
Well, I mean, we cannot, but
we can.
My AirPods are falling out. That's how long this is going.
So let's talk about this all. So used to be CompTIA, now GTIA. You still maintain the same type of position.
Yes.
Right? So let's talk about you first before we get into, because I feel like GTIA is a much bigger conversation holistically.
Okay.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, but I feel like it'd be so much to talk about there.
I'm happy to talk about. This is your podcast. I am happy to talk about snow, trash, and whatever else you would like to speak about.
I really appreciate that about you.
Let's talk about MJ first.
I go with the flow. I try.
You're such a giver, I tell you. So, how long have you been in the business for?
Oh my goodness! I mean, in the tech space, in the IT channel,
in the tech business, yeah.
We'll start tech first. I think we'll boil it down from there.
Okay, it's over 30 years. I'm a lot older than I look. Really, I'm kidding. I'm probably as old as I look, but yeah, it's over 30 years now. Before you boys were born, let's put it that way.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about Sean.
Whoa.
All right, fine.
Yeah. So over 30
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Okay. And how did you even get into the business?
So it was kind of accidental, I guess, for lack of a better word. After I got out of college, I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. And my dad was a self-made business guy. He was in the industrial chemicals business, and he suggested, getting a sales job because he said, look, sales is kind of the fundamental baseline of any business. A business can't exist if they don't sell their products. He said, so that's a
Right.
good way to dip your toe into the business world and kind of see what you might, see what might appeal to you. So the short version of the story is over a number of years in my 20s, I bounced between a couple different VC funded startups back in the day and learned the ropes of the tech channel. I mean, I remember one startup. I remember the day we signed our first distribution deal with what was then Maricel, and that changed the whole game for that company. So that did give me a really good baseline of both business knowledge, but more importantly, it got me really exposed to the tech industry, and definitely bit the whatever, the aptitude attraction to tech, and I just started throwing myself into tech, and I wound up administering the what at the time it wasn't called, but what we would now refer to as the CRM database. I wound up administering the CRM database for that company, and then another company I wound up working for that was more in the chip side of technology. I wound up becoming their IT director, and then in the mid 90s, I think it was 90, early 95, we brought in our first internet connection. We were spending like $4,000 a month for a T1. Wow.
Nice.
And it was such a big expense that I came up with this stupid idea that we should carve off, because we were only using it for email. So I'm like, we've got plenty, laughable, of available bandwidth here. I remember working with the old Ma Bell engineer to like dig the trench and pull the copper to bring this thing into our building. That's how arcane
Hmm.
it was back in the day. But I came up with a crazy idea to throw a bank of modems into our IT room and sell dial-up internet service to the community to offset the cost. So that
So you
was a
became an
crazy
ISP.
became an ISP, which was a crazy wild ride, let me tell you. And then after that was when I launched my own business, and was an early adopter of the MSP model. Um, really at the behest of ConnectWise back in the day, because I remember going to the very first ConnectWise Partner Summit before it was IT Nation at the
Mhm.
it was a Marriott very near the Tampa airport. And I also remember going to an SMB Nation event and hearing
Wow.
Harry Brelsford talk about, his model of charging. Oh my God, back in the day, I think he was like charging a couple $100 a month per server to like monitor the server, which I remember setting up What's Up Gold to monitor the server.
Oh man, that goes back.
Right. That's like early, almost not quite RMM type stuff, but
Yeah,
it
that is.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Like
early
Big Brother
days,
was
but
around back then and all those things.
oh yeah. We had monitors up in our office with green and reds, and you get the little, our DNS is down. And it's like, oh my God, ring the bell and fix the problem. So it's been and then back in the year 2000, I joined CompTIA as a member, and was a CompTIA member for the rest of the time I had my MSP until I sold almost 10 years ago now, which seems crazy to me. Um, and went through another roll-up acquisition as I sold to a friendly competitor, and we became more of a regional player, and then a
Mhm.
national player acquired us year and a half or so after that. And when my contract was up, I decided I wanted to throw my hat in the consulting ring, and was doing some consulting. And that's when CompTIA asked me to do a project for them, which actually ConnectWise asked me to get involved in a project um, to launch an ISAL. And then we turned that over to CompTIA, and CompTIA asked me to continue working on the project, and then eventually brought me on full time. And that's where the ISAL, the now GTIA ISAL, came from. And then after about a year of that, our former CEO asked me to take over the membership program, and I became the chief community officer, which I still am today.
Nice.
So what's different about that, right? So you were, like many of our viewers, listeners, like a pretty technical engineering type person, right? Running an IT department in your own MSP. How did you get into doing community things and membership programs?
I mean, that was really, I've always been a people person, and I think that's why I was successful in the business. It's you're right. I was kind of that quasi. I wouldn't give myself too strong a pat on the technical back. I mean, I was technical in my day. I think
Mhm.
in today's world, look, I know enough to be dangerous. I know where my limits are. I still understand and love the technology, but I wouldn't consider myself a practicing technologist to this day.
We'll
Or
call MJ if you need Novell help, is what I'm
right at
hearing.
this time, though my entire family calls me and asks me to fix everything, so I definitely still suffer from that fate. You know what, I can stand up systems if I need to, but I prefer to do the more strategic work now. I mean, that's where I really have value. There are much smarter people than me that get to do the hands-on stuff. And that's what you want to see, right? You want to be able to graduate to different levels in your career and get smart people around you to help you pursue goals and objectives. But I was a bit of a hybrid because I understood the technology. I had a strong aptitude with this technology. Yes, I could implement a Novell network, a Microsoft network, you name it, token ring, twisted pair, God help us. Um, all that happy crap, right? But I also had, from being involved in a couple startups and sales and having an entrepreneur for a dad, I also had, some decent business and people skills, and that's what really helped me to sort of round things out. But you know, I remember when I joined CompTIA, I really got bitten by the community bug. I saw something that was much bigger than me, and I became a pretty involved member. I chaired a couple of communities over the years. I served on the board of directors twice. Um, I really saw the power of community. It helped my business immensely. I mean, I was a small, I'll call it budding MSP before MSP was really the word. When I started the business, we were IT consultants.
Yep.
But, we very
Hmm.
quickly turned into, the modern day MSP. But between what I was doing with CompTIA, I was a ConnectWise partner, I was a Kaseya partner at one point. Um, Different groups that I was involved in, I started to see the power of community. And with CompTIA, it was different because different from CompTIA sat at a very interesting, and now GTIA sits at that same interesting junction of the industry, right? We're a vendor neutral nonprofit trade association. So I'm putting my GTIA hat on for a second, then I'll come back to the point of your question, Matt.
Oh,
Um,
thank God. I was wondering if you were ever going to figure out how many
oh,
resistance.
look who's talking, dude. We've covered more ground in 10 minutes than the first 14. So
I
Yeah,
disagree.
have any more thoughts about trash before we?
no.
Speaking of
Well,
trash,
there's
finish your
some there's
story.
some behind Sean there on the shelves, but I can't particularly,
Wow. Wow.
listen, Linda. If I turned my
Right.
camera off and I was at home, you could say the same to me. Um, but all right, now that you've totally thrown me off track, I'm
I
just
think
going
it
to
was.
come back and say, and I probably just offended every woman named Linda, so I apologize.
I
Um,
think they know the
I
reference.
really just saw the power of what community could mean, and it meant a lot to my business, and it helped me be more successful than I believe I would have been on my own. And so that's what really bit the bug in me, and that's why I started to get involved and really give back. Um, I've said this numerous times. My college fraternity motto was "Give, expecting nothing thereof," and community in our industry, and our industry meaning the channel, is really the only other place in my life where I've seen that ethic. I think of you, Matt, I think of you, Sean, I think of so many other people that we all know throughout the industry, and they really have that. Some people call it the go-giver mentality, some people
Mhm.
call it a servant mentality. I mean, it's all just different terms for the same thing. It's this is a really unique industry, and this is a very unique place in the industry where it really is about giving and not looking to get necessarily something specific back, but what you get back is you know significantly more than you wind up. You get back more than you give when you come into it not looking to get. If you come into
Right.
something
Yeah.
looking to get something, looking to raise your stature, make yourself feel better than something, that doesn't work. But when you come into something genuinely and you invest in community and you help your peers and you share your experience and your expertise in whatever way you can, you tend to get back so much more. And so for me, this is a labor of love. I mean, this is I joked earlier about my age, and I just turned 60, and it's cool. Stop it. It's just a freaking number. I like to think I'm still much younger in my head. And of course, my wife reminds me, yeah, but that's like young, like as in a 12-year-old. And that's not something to be proud of.
That's called
I'm
it's
like,
called maturity or lack thereof.
right, right,
Not
right,
yeah,
right.
not youth.
But honestly, I don't. It's funny, right? How perspectives change. I remember when my dad was older than my mom. I remember when he turned 60, I was like, oh my God, he's so old. I do not feel old by a long shot.
Right.
But I share that simply to say I do recognize that I'm now at a point in my career where my years of working are less than my years that I have worked. And so this is, and as it should be, right? We shouldn't, we should work hard, and we should get to enjoy the fruits of that when we
Yep.
get to whatever stage in our lives it makes sense for that to happen. But look, I know I'm not going to be working 10 years from now. I've got some ideas of how much longer I want to do this, but this is an unbelievable opportunity for me to solely focus on giving back to an industry and a community that has enriched my life tremendously throughout my career. So that's how I became community minded, Matt, is I saw the power of it. I saw that happening with people around me, and I saw the relationships being made. Some of my best friends to this day are people in this industry.
Mhm.
And that's unique. That doesn't always happen. And so for me, this is an honor, it's a privilege, it's a calling. I'm doing this out of passion more than anything else. So that that's how it happened.
I appreciate that. And well, I think one question that came to mind, just because of the amount of years you've been doing in the channel too, is how do you maintain the discipline and the motivation? Because it is a lot. For
Mhm.
to me, if you have a regular job, like if you're an MSP or you work for a vendor or whatever, you work that job, but working in the community is a job also. It becomes
Yeah.
almost two full-time jobs in a way, right?
Yeah.
So how do you maintain that?
It's there's no doubt it's a challenge. No doubt at all. For some reason, my AirPods are slipping today. They usually don't do that. So I'm sorry that I keep
It's fine.
readjusting
We
them.
figured it was just a nervous twitch dealing with Matt and I know
No,
daunting.
that would be
So
far more dramatic, trust me. Um, you make a great point, because one thing I've always said about the channel specifically, and we think about this a lot at GTIA, is you can make a career. And let's be honest, there are some people who make a career out
mhm.
of going to industry events, and
Yep.
you sort of sit back and wonder sometimes, how does that person run and maintain a good business, because they're
Mhm.
always on the road. and
Right.
and I'm talking about an MSP now.
Well, of
Vendors,
course, right. That's
obviously.
their job as vendors, right?
Yeah.
Right, right, right. So, you do have to be careful, and you have to pick where to engage. It's
Mhm.
like anything. You can try and do everything, but how much value do you extract from that versus if you focus on a couple things? Personally, the advice I give people when they ask me personally offline, and I take my GTIA hat off, I say, look, you need to focus on where you're going to get the most value. Obviously, I'm biased about GTIA and the former CompTIA community. Those were very, that experience was very impactful for me. And I do believe it can have that same value for every single MSP and organization in the channel. But I acknowledge my bias first. And then I say, look, you should focus on what your business is. If you're a vertical MSP or whatever, focus on that. If you're in healthcare, focus on organizations that are supporting healthcare IT. But you also have to look at who you've partnered with for your stack. You shouldn't be partnered with every vendor under the sun and chasing the tool of the day. You should make a strategic decision about who your business partners are and invest in those relationships. Get involved in those vendor partner communities or distribution partner
Mhm.
communities because they are highly relevant to you because you've invested in their technology to serve your customers. So you want that more specific type of community that is based around your stack, let's say. But then you also want to find that broader community that exposes you to something unique. And clearly, where we believe we bring that uniqueness is, and here's the bias part, but it's because of that unique junction that we sit. We don't take sponsorship dollars. Our dues, as you guys know, are highly subsidized. It's not about the dollars we collect. It's about making sure you've got some skin in the game so you actually
Mhm.
engage and do. But it's also that global perspective. We've got the unique ability to, if an MSP in Brisbane, Australia comes up with this, phenomenal solution for something, we've got the ability to rapidly share that across every other region of the globe so that an MSP in Birmingham, England or Birmingham, Alabama can benefit from what that MSP in Brisbane did. So we provide that connective tissue between all the different regions, and some are at different levels of maturity. And so we can help advance that by connecting people. You guys have you mentioned early on before we went down some rabbit hole or another about, you've got IT Nation Europe coming up, you've got IT Nation Secure,
Yeah.
you do a similar thing within the sphere of influence that you have in your IT Nation community. And that's terrific. And then, the IT Nation community engages in the GTIA community because we're that big open tent where everybody's welcome to come together. And even competitors, will work together. You'll work with some of your fiercest competitors from a business standpoint, but you'll work together and collaborate to help the entire industry be better about cybersecurity or basic business practices or
Yep.
leveraging AI and
Mhm.
avoiding the hype and focusing on reality, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, and that's just for me, that's my passion. I mean, it is, I love to get up and get at it every day. And that's a gift. I mean, that is a gift. We work too hard not to love what we do. I loved it when I loved being an MSP when I was an MSP. I remember I had a client after about 15 years sold his business, and he said to me one of the last times I saw him, he said, he said, I really have to thank you. You helped make this dream a reality. And I was like, what? And it was an aha moment for me because I was like, why haven't I been thinking about that all along? He's like, it was a small business. I think he had 30 some odd employees, but he sold for something north of 10 million, and he wanted to retire, but he made sure that when he sold, they weren't going to move the business or
Mhm.
switch out so he secured every one of his employees had a job. The company
That's
kept
cool.
going. It's still going to this day. And he said to me, he said, we kind of walked down this. We kind of grew up together. I was a startup business. You were a small MSP. You helped us grow. I'm sure we helped you grow, and you helped me, put food on 35 families' tables and serve countless customers. And I just had that aha moment. I was like, whoa, now multiply that by all the clients we have.
Mhm.
Wow, my little teeny business in this little corner of New England has really provided value. And some of the value that he appreciated were the perspectives that I brought to the table. I used to voraciously consume CompTIA research, and I got CompTIA to let us co-brand. So I used to present the research, and we still do this for our members today. I would present our research to a client. So I'd take like a security research paper, for example. I'd brand it compliments of my MSP, and I'd sit down and I'd show them where this neutral trade association research was validating some of the things I was trying to get them to focus on to keep their business safe. And that was gold, right? Because
Yeah.
then I wasn't just some schlub trying to sell something. I actually had valid information to back up my recommendations, that obviously grew our credibility within
I
our
love
customer
that.
too. So
Mhm.
Why don't you give a class on that?
I would be happy to give a class on that.
Like seriously, and because when I
Yeah,
talk to
no
MSPs,
joke.
I
Yeah.
reference MSPs all the time. I say, like the IBM commercial where they're like, there were 245,000 attacks. What are we gonna do? We took care of it already. Wow, amazing. And that's that commercial, right? I'm like, that's what your end users are watching. If you
Right.
use that commercial and say that's what we do, you're done talking. Like they're like,
Yeah.
because IBM already spent all the money on the commercial, right? It looks great. You can literally
Right.
play that
Right. Right.
commercial. Be like, we're also, by the way, a partner of IBM. Oh, wow, amazing. Whatever, right? But like,
Yeah.
I feel like MSPs don't realize they don't have to create their own unique content. And if they try to, they're
Right.
not very good at it anyway, most times, because they're not
Yeah.
marketing people. They're engineers.
Yes.
They're
Right.
tech people. So
And that's another great example of where we do some pretty cool things at GTIA, because members will come up with an idea for content like that. Like we have so many different guides, but one that just popped to mind based on that example was we had I think it's called, Matt, you may actually even remember this better than me, because I think you were somehow involved. We had like the basic cybersecurity fundamentals for MSPs, and then advanced cybersecurity
Mhm.
practices for MSP, something like that. That was an idea that came from the members. I think it came from the group in the ISA maybe, and they put all the pieces together of like what the building block should be, and then they handed it to staff and said, "Can you like wordsmith this and wrap it and brand it and make it something nice?" And so we did. We turned it into 2 downloadable guides that are
Right.
filled with practical steps that an MSP can take. And the critical thing here is it was built by MSPs for MSPs. It wasn't like GTIA saying we know best. Yes, we've got a lot of smart people, no question about it, but we're not delivering the services and building the products and services that all of our members are doing. So bringing diverse members together to build these resources for members, and then we just take it and we've got editors who make it understandable, legible, break it down, brand it, build some graphics for it. We can polish it all and package it, and you know go to town with it, build your business around it.
Right. And each party there thought the other one was doing the hard part.
Yeah. Right. Good point. Good point. Good point. So yeah, I mean, so many cool things we could talk about.
So, well, the question that does come up often, and you start touching as far as GTIA is concerned with the move from CompTIA to GTIA. You also mentioned about, you subsidize costs for rails. You don't take dollars from money. So we've heard rumblings of where do they go? Are they going to stay afloat? Are they going to stay in business? Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously the certification was a huge part of everything. We knew that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So for people that are going to watch this, what's your words to that exactly?
So it's pretty simple. I think like human nature, people wanted to believe it had to be more complicated than it was. It wasn't. Our CEO, and he shared this in a message that went out to all members after we announced the new name and the transition. He had an idea going back over 10 years that at some point there would be an opportunity to leverage the brand and the certification business to financially secure the association forever. And that opportunity presented itself. And so, the original association name was the Computing Technology Industry Association. CompTIA was an acronym of that name, and it became the brand. And so, literally, the Computing Technology Trade Association, which was that vendor neutral nonprofit trade association, sold the CompTIA brand in the certification business to third party investors, and the proceeds of that sale belong to that nonprofit vendor neutral trade association. But because we sold the CompTIA brand that we had been operating under, we had to rename. So therefore, the genesis of what is the Global Technology Industry Association, or GTIA. So it's the same trade association, simply renamed, and now we have a financial endowment that will fund our operations in perpetuity. Not we will be we will be living off the earnings of the endowment, which is managed by our audit, finance, and investment committee of our board of directors in conjunction with two very well-known investment houses that specialize in safeguarding endowments for the long term, because we have to make sure that we don't invade the principal and degrade the endowment to where it doesn't produce the income we need to run the trade association. So, whereas before we got our budget, our funding from the certification sales and training sales, now we're getting it from this endowment, and it's a gift to the industry. It truly is. And I don't know when this is coming out, but we're hosting 3 town halls around the globe. The first one is February 3rd in North America, and then I think the next one is the 13th in ASEAN and ANZ, and then the 17th in the UK and Europe. We've put an open call out. We're your trade association. How can we help? If you know what we do now, help us truly validate what's important to you. And should we be enhancing things? Are there things we should stop doing? Are there things we should consider doing that we're not doing today? We want to hear from members, non-members, former members, anybody. We're here to serve our members, and as I said, that is a gift to the industry. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say we also intend to ramp up to giving tens of millions of dollars a year in charitable giving to support initiatives in the industry serving underserved populations, to help them get access to tech careers or opportunities in tech, or it could be funding technology, in school. I don't know, the sky's the limit. The very first donation that we made was to a group that's supporting the technology and communication needs of the responders to the LA fires.
Yeah.
We gave a quick small donation to that, but we're standing up the infrastructure to support annual charitable giving to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, which is a significant increase over what we've historically been able to do. So when I say this is a gift to the industry, I literally mean this is a gift to the industry.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know a lot of our conversations when we were at the year-end planning was about what to do, where charity should look, what it should look like, because there's tons of needs, obviously, and everybody has their own thought as to where we could put a ton of money to. But
right. And I've heard I've seen presentations from some of the past recipients of our charitable giving, and they're so inspiring. And so it's also, all kidding aside, for our members, it's also an opportunity to be a part of that and help to direct where those funds may wind up going. And that's something to feel really good about, that not only are you doing good in your business, but you're helping to do good globally, through all of the different ways that GTIA is able to impact, this channel and this industry that we all, for some reason, love so much.
Masochism.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean it. I truly feel so lucky to be able to do this work, and it's to get to work with folks like you. We've had so many great conversations over the years, and it's unique. I look at my college buddies and their careers. I look at some family members and their careers. Not everybody gets to experience this in their work life, and it's something I think we all deserve to take a little step back and be proud of what we're involved in and a part of.
Totally agree.
Agreed. All right, so MJ, we're just about out of time. I think we spent too long talking about garbage trucks and snow and things.
That's subjective to your opinion.
So we unintentionally segued before one of your answers, and so we always end the show with the same question, which is, for our audience, if you can give a piece of advice in the form of a habit that they should start doing or stop doing, in this case, maybe around community or how to leverage some of the resources they have available to them, what would that be?
My advice would be Stop trying to chase everything that comes into your field of vision. Focus on those areas that can truly make an impact and take some action. Nothing happens, for every action there's an equal reaction or some cliche like that. I think that applies. You can't just join A, B, or C community and expect that it's gonna miraculously help you be whatever your goals may be. You've got to put in a little, my dad used to say, a little elbow grease. And if you put in a little elbow grease, you'll get a ton back. Trust me.
I love that. That is
Awesome.
spot on. That's probably one of the better pieces of advice we've gotten from somebody.
I'm glad I
Like,
could help.
But I think, and I know, Matt, you have to get off, so I'll make this brief. The only reason why I love that as much as I do is because I've watched so many vendors, well, not even vendors, startup companies at large. They chase everything and they can do everything. They literally claim they're the Swiss Army knife. And when you do that, you don't focus on your strengths. You end up getting the bad reputation, losing your business anyway.
Hmm.
So, and that's something for employees too, because everybody wants to be everything all the time. Even
It's really important advice.
a
Yeah.
22-year-old coming into your field wants to do everything. They're like, I can do all this. I know how to do all this. And it's like, nobody can. Nobody can do everything. It's impossible. Nobody is scalable.
Right.
So even if you have a talent for it. So, all right.
I'm glad you found it helpful. I mean, that served me well over the years. I've seen it do well for other people, and I hope it helps. And I'll also say, to anyone who's listening, anyone's welcome to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn, whatever. I love talking with other people in the industry, with members and whatnot, and be happy to hear from anybody.
Absolutely. That's a true statement. You will talk to anybody.
Yeah, I will. I always
Even
answer
us.
your calls and texts. I should have that exam.
I mean, look, you agreed to be on this, so you'll talk to anybody. So, all right. So with that said, Matt, any last words, man?
No, I really appreciate you coming on, MJ. Good conversation.
Thanks
and
so
nice
much for the invite.
to talk about some personal stuff too.
Yeah,
I know,
no,
right?
this is fun. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it very much.
No, thank you, MJ. Seriously, appreciate it. Looking forward to doing a lot more things with you in the community in general. So
yeah, same.
Yeah, it should be fun. This will be an interesting year, to say the least.
Yes, it will.
Yes,
Right.
agreed.
Well, with all that, we are out of here. Thank you again, and we'll see everybody soon.
Take care.
Thanks.
I'm on a whole new level.